Whenever the Treasury and the Federal Reserve make a move, we have to pay attention because it's going to affect us. In today's video, we're going to talk about something that is relatively unknown, and that is the Treasury Cash Balance. You might ask yourself, why should I care? But I'm going to give you the explanation of why that is very critical and so important to your daily life. What happens when it goes down to zero? Well, that's what we're here to uncover. My name is David Quintieri, and this is what I have been doing for well over 10 years. I look into the truth about money. So today we'll look at what's going on with this Treasury Cash Balance, what it is, and so on. And I'll start with that as the introduction. First things first, what the heck is a Treasury Cash Balance? Think of it like the government's operating cash, similar to your checking account. So think about that, your checking account. You're going to be paying bills, you're going to be doing these things with it. The government has the same thing, all right? It fluctuates based on income like taxes and fines and loans, and outgoing expenses like salaries and infrastructure spending. But here's the thing, the balance isn't some stable number, it's always changing. Stick around because I'm going to show you more specifics on that. Now the role, where does all of this cash go? Well, it's pretty much funding everything that the government does, from maintaining the roads and bridges, paying the federal employees, national security. It's the lifeblood of the government's daily operations. But what happens when that lifeblood runs out? And that's what we're seeing right now. I'll talk a bit about that in today's video, but I will also expand on this in part 2, which will come out a day after this video releases. But for now, we got to understand the dangers here. This is when things get serious. When the balance gets low, the government starts running out of money to cover its expenses. So imagine your account hitting zero, not a good situation, right? Well, it's a lot worse when the federal government does it. There are some complex processes in place to deal with it. They can borrow more money and so on, but the borrowing has a limit too, and that's called the debt ceiling. Stick with me because I'll explain why that is a big deal. You got to understand this came up in the news recently as I record this video, and so the debt ceiling fiasco, what's going to happen? Is the government going to be able to pay its bills? All the while the Treasury cash balance was depleting. This is something that I covered in those videos, but I wanted to make it clear. Why? It's behind us now. No, it's going to come up again and again and again. We can always reference this video to understand what this is all about. Here's the current state of the Treasury cash balance. Right now, it has gone down to what is considered critical levels. So the government is basically going to flip that and try to create a surge and basically fill that up. I'll talk about it in part 2, but you're probably thinking why? Like, why would this happen? It's because of all those expenditures throughout this previous period where they hadn't been replacing that, not enough income coming in and too much going out. Just like somebody out there that's using too much of their credit card and not having an income to support that. They took out too much debt and now they got to pay the expenses on that debt. It's the exact same with the federal government because a lot of the expense they have today, the biggest expense is actually the, paying the debt on, paying the interest on their debt. I mean, just that, just think about that. This is what you, the taxpayer, have to pay. The implications of this for you and me could be massive because if the government can't pay its bills, it could affect everything from the value of the currency to the availability of essential services. This is why we must pay attention to this issue. The same problem likely happens in other countries. Look to Canada, look to the UK, to Australia, and so on, where we basically have way too much debt and we don't have enough income. And at the same time, with higher interest rates, that presents itself as an issue because there's more debt and there's more interest on that debt. So there you have it, the Treasury cash balance, what it is, where the money goes, and why it's such a big problem when it gets too low. This is very important because we need to look at the understanding of why isn't more money coming in? Like, why don't we just raise taxes? That would be the solution, some say. But the obvious notion here is that taxes are extremely high. This is a controversial topic for some. If we were to tax everybody at 100%, it still wouldn't fill the void. And this is because the expenditures are far too high. That's the real issue. The government spends more money each and every year without fail. And yet the infrastructure doesn't seem to be keeping up. So something is going on. Isn't that the way it looks? Well, that's my explanation of the Treasury Cash Balance, how it's depleted, and in the next video, I'll be showing you specifically how this is going to reverse and what they intend on doing, creating a $1 trillion vacuum. Stay tuned.